last Mule application, we sent a request from the browser and then we received a message. And later in the yesterday's session, we discussed about debugging of the same application, and we observed two things. After the end of the after the end of when after the end of the process, whatever the value available in the payload, that value will be returned to the whoever calls your service. In the current scenario, we called it from the browser. Browser received the value at the end of the flow. And we have attributes. So whenever you receive a request, there is something called attributes is populating. In the attributes, you can see that some related data related to your request. So we'll extend this in this session. So now now in today's session, we are going to discuss about um, FileConnector, and then we are going to discuss about along with Mule event model. We have said Mule will receive an event processor, some terminology we used, we are going to extend that. Mule event model. So the day one session, the day one session when we are discussing about the number of the types of integration, the types of integration, excuse me, the types of integration here. Open with the types of integration. What are the different types of integrations can be performed between two systems? Someone unmuted. Any questions? Please mute yourself. So the different type ways of integration we can perform between two systems is based on the file, database, messaging, web services, and application-based connectors. If you know all of this in any of your integration tool, how integration tool accepts the data and sends the data, and how it will support these things will be more than enough to start working on it. So today we'll start with the file. Later we'll keep on moving to the one topic to the other topic. So first thing we are going to discuss about the file. So what are the ways in a file will be file will be used to integrate? So you'll have a system A. You will have system source system. Generally, we will call that as whoever sends the data or from where the initiation triggers, that will be called as a source, and then um, that will be called as a source, and the other system called as a target. To this target, we need to send the data. So we are going to start discussing about this integration. In this integration today, until today or tomorrow, we'll only talk about half of part of it. How to send the data to target system, that was a different story. So today we'll see what it will happen. So source system, at some point of time, it will it will generate some file, and then it will keep in some location. So it will keep in some location. So your integration, you have to write an integration. So your integration should go to this location and continuously check whether my file exists or not. So what it has to do, your integration, point one, your integration has to go and check for the first discussion is when you source system people, target system people, and an integration team people, when these three people sit together and they will talk how do we create an integration between these systems. So at that time, source system will inform us this was the story before you start integration work. Source system will inform us. At some point of time, what I will do, I will write a file to some location. So what are the point it is saying? In some location is one point, and it will write a file is another point, and then the location of file is another point. Sorry, location of the file, and then name of the file is another point. So it will write a file, and then it will have some name. So file location and name are both are the two important things here. And so as an integration developer, what is your role here? You have to write an integration. Your integration should go to given location, and then it will check for file with some naming standard, and then when it will go, when you ask us to, your integration should go to a specific location. When it should go? Now, today, tomorrow, or multiple times in a day. I mean, every minute, every second, every 1 hour, right? Something like that. You should also inform to your integration. That is time to check. So this is how you will do. So your integration will, for every given configured amount of time, it will go to some location, and then it will go to some location, and then check for your file check for your file if the file exists, and then your trigger will start, and then your integration will start. So this is how you will integrate with the files. So there are other operations also available with the file that we will discuss in the next session. So what will happen when people are integrating with the help of files? With the help of files, one way of integration is source system will write a file into one location, and your integration needs to go to that location, continuously check for the file. If the file exists, get the file and start executing your integration. Is everyone get this point?
Yes.
Others who are first, I mean, I mostly ask questions who are looking for a first job in the IT field. So I expect answers from you. Those who are already working in the middleware, I never ask a question to them. Those who are shifting the career from other technologies to the middleware, like testing to middleware, DBA to middleware, non-relevant technologies. So the second priority is you. So are you guys able to understand the scenario? Yes,
Yeah,
no?
sure. Yes, Kishore.
Okay, someone from DBA, Krishna. Who is from
Yes.
DBA? Kiran. Pawan. Not joined. Joined.
Yes, Kishore. I joined.
Kiran. So Kiran, you are the first priority, so answer should come from your side.
Sir, I understood.
Okay. Girish, check the names who has not joined, just give a reminder. So, search target integration team, all three teams will sit together and they will discuss about the integration. When source says, I will write a file at some location, so we will ask at what time you will write, daily once, weekly once, monthly once, something like that. Depending on that, we will create our integration. So, when we are going to create a new project now, so I'm creating a new project. We are going to create a new project. So the project name is B file operations and then finish. So when you create an project, you will get an new configuration file with the same project name, and then we'll develop our integration in terms of flows. So let's go and get the flow. So this is your flow. So I think I have already shown you when you every integration will have a source point and then event source and then event processors. So every connector will have every module will have a source event processors and then other event processors. If you drag drop a source event processor to your canvas, by default a flow will be created, and then depending on the place of this particular event processor, that event processor will go and sit there. Suppose if you drag drop, say something called request. So request is not a source event processor. So your flow will be created and your request will be part of your regular event process, right? So now in the same way, now you want to interact with your files. So there is no module called file available. Now let me get a module. How to add a module? Yesterday we discussed. Click on this add module button in the Mule palette and check for your what is the end system you are how you are interacting with your source or target system. I am interacting with the help of files. Then drag drop the files. So if in the files you will have these many operations available. So you have to open the connector documentation or module documentation and read about each and every operation. In that, one of the operation will be an event source. So on new or update file. So what it will do on new or update file, it will be a source event processor. And if you take any other thing like read, write, all these are not source event processors, these are the regular event processors. So when I drag drop, these are creating different flows. So with its wherever it is possible to place, their flow was created with that. So I'm deleting this just to show this. I drag dropped this, and now I have a flow created. Now I'm using on new or update file, and then I'm keeping that in. It will not allow me to drop it in the process. It will allow me to drop it in the source. So now I dropped. So on new or update file will be suitable for our requirement. It will go and check for a file exists in the given location or not. So for that, I'm creating some locations um, in my in my system. In my system I am creating this file polar, and in is a location. So in any place, create a directory called inside in first create something called file polar, and then create a folder called in, and then take this location and configure your file connector. So connector configuration, click on this. What is it saying? Create new configuration. So go and create a new configuration. There is nothing to provide here, just simply say okay. And then directory, on which directory I have to go and check for a file. So it will go and check for a file in this directory. And so say suppose in the directory I have 10 to 15 different kinds of files. Which file I need to pick? So you have to provide the matching condition based on the name, based on the extension, based on the type, modified, so many things. So to provide that, your connector configuration has provided something called matcher here. So in the matcher, choose edit inline. Click on this, it will get extended. There will be many options populated. I am repeating this none and then edit inline. So when you do edit inline, it will enable you the many options here. So choose your respective option to filter the file. If I have n files, what is the file I need to pick? So I will based on the file name. So make sure there is file path and file name. So sorry, path and name. Make sure you are giving the value in the name. So I'll say my file name should contain starting with stored and then star anything, and after that I want to get a data of CSV. So stud.csv. So students.csv is my file name that I will use. It will contain some comma separated values of my student information. Student number, student name, marks 1 and marks 2. Right. So you told to the file connector operation, hey, go to this location and search for the files of name contains this name. So when it should go, we have to inform that as well, right? So once the application is started, so you have to go to the scheduling frequency or scheduling strategy. So it can be defined in two ways with the help of cron, with the help of fixed frequency. Here you can define with the help of fixed frequency. So here you can give the values starting range from seconds to starting range to days. So as we are doing 1 hour session, I cannot give more than seconds or minutes. I'll give seconds for every 10 seconds, right? My application will pick the my application will my flow my on new or update file will go to this for every 10 seconds. It will go to this location and check for a file whether the file is exist or not. If the file is exist, then trigger will happen, and then your mule process will start. So now I am saving this out, and then I was adding a logger at the end, and I'm saying, file got picked, right? So I am saving this. So is everyone clear what I have did? Is everyone clear?
Yes, 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 Kishore.
Yes,
Right?
Kishore.
So the point is you have to understand the scenario. Then only you can understand the options. First three, four examples until file completes, everyone will have a kind of dilemma. After file completes, you will get better quality, better clarity on the things. Okay. So yesterday when we are discussing something, so yesterday when we are discussing how what value browser received, what is the value where we assigned the value that browser received it, how browser received hi all welcome to mule message
From the payload, right?
from the payload, right? Is everyone agrees that? Yes,
Yeah,
no?
yeah, yeah, yes.
Right. Now it means when you are sending the data to your some system, some outside of your mule program, you are using the payload. Now what I am saying, I am trying to read a file. So I am trying to read a file. My process is starting by reading a file. So my integration is starting by file read. So when you read the file, so it will get the data as well, right? Can anyone give a guess where that data will store? At what part of Mule that data will store? So let's go and run this example. I'll run in the debug mode. All the things will run in the debug mode. I will add a logger at the break. I will add a breakpoint here. So what will happen? First of all, once my application is up and running, once my application is up and running, and one more thing in between, in the demo sessions, all these videos are available. I forgot to inform you guys. I think for everyone who contacted me, I already sent this and I think I already explained. So first three session videos are available in this demo session. So at the end, 1, 2, 3. I think till yesterday's session, you have these are available. Your channel got created, and I'm able to add the videos. I'll add them and I'll share with you guys. So let's go back, and then my application is initializing. As I started my application in the debug mode, it is intelligent enough informing us that go to switch to debugger perspective. Now my application is deployed. What is happening at the back end? Why my trigger is not happened? Because in the given location there is no file with the stud and extension as a CSV. So suppose if I give mm, if I give abc.txt, will my trigger will happen? Let me go and keep abc.txt in the in location where I have configured my application is listening. So trigger will not happen because you are specifically looking for some specific kind of file. Someone unmuted. Any questions? Not go on mute. So now I'm placing a file where it contains students.csv. Now see the trigger was happened and it received. Now go and validate. What is this logger? What is this logger? The current event processor that is going to execute is the logger. It will show the information. When it is going to execute, it will print in information in the console that file got picked. And apart from that, there is something called attributes. Let's copy these attributes and then at the end we'll try to validate these attributes. So now these are your attributes. Let me arrange them properly. Let me arrange them. Try to read the information available here and let me know if you are able to understand what is this information is. Are you able to understand what is this information? Anyone?
Yes, Kishore.
What is that information?
All these information related to the connector, like file
Related
adapter
to?
connector.
File modified, created, path, name.
So this is from the payload I am copying. Hope you have observed that. So we are constant. Let's see first about the payload, right? So payload, what is payload? Why we will develop the integration first? What is the need of integration? First day, first slide, right? What is the
Moving
need of
data.
integration? To transfer the data. So when someone write me a file, what I need to do? I need to pick the data and I need to send the data to the different system. So whatever data you will transfer between the system, the actual data that you transfer between the system is called a payload. Whether you will receive it or whether you will send it. So whatever is there, when you receive it, the actual data will come and sit in the payload. When you want to send it, you have to keep the data inside the payload. Right? You got the point? So payload is the one which actually carries your data. Then what is this attributes? What is the students.csv? What is this path? So
Source.
whatever you received the data, this is your actual data. This is data about your data. you received this student's data, and the student data is read from a file called this one, and this is available in this location, and it is a regular file. It is last modified in this time. It is last accessed in this time, right? This was created in this time, something like that. This is giving. So now let's go back and verify the attributes related to your HTTP. So HTTP attributes are also tells that the trigger, the request got initiated, the request got initiated something like this. This is for the file. The request got initiated from the local address blah blah blah, and it has an path is this, and the scheme is this, and query parameters are this, URI parameters are this. So the meta information about your request, from where your request triggered, that information will sits in the attributes. Step 1 is payload, which will contains the actual data. Step 2 is attributes, which will contain your meta information from where your request is triggered. My request is triggered by reading a file name called students.csv, and this is exist in this is location, and it is a regular file true, or it is created in this time, last accessed in this time, and last modified in this time, right? And now I am leaving my flow, and this flow is this flow is this flow is continuously executing. Now every time I am printing simple message got file got picked. Now I want to print at least my payload, that what I have received from the file, I want to access it. So as an integration developer, you will access the payload. As an integration developer, you will access the payload, right? So how do you access this payload? Or I want to know the file name that I have read, or I want to know the path. How do I access? So to access that, we'll keep one more logger, two loggers. So to access that, you have to enable f of x, right? And you should write, either I'll talk this after going through the slides. This slide we'll talk at the end. So file connector, if from your Mule integration, if you want to work with the file, there are 4 connectors are available: file, FTP, SFTP, FTPS, and the operations that you can perform on this is these operations. So whether it is a connector of FTP or SFTP file, right, all this will be perform the same operations, but what is the difference? Where is your file? That depends on choosing your connector. If my Mule runtime, wherever my Mule application is running, and my file, both are on the same mission, and then you will use the file connector. If that is an FTP host, you use FTP connector. SFTP host, SFTP connector. FTPS, then you will use the FTPS connector. So all 4 connectors perform same kind of operations. The operations are OnNewUpdate. It will the process of going and checking for a file in the given given interval of time, that is called polling. So OnNewUpdate file polls for a new or updated file in the given interval of time. And read to read, write to write, list to list the files and folders, and move is used to move the things. And then using a file connector. How do we use a file connector? So add the file connector to project, that is already we did. Mule palette, add modules, blah blah stuff. Just go through these things, and then I'll talk about this. And so example 1, poll for a new file, print the contents in a file, and move it to an archive location. So that is what we are going to do now. So we have completed half of the part, first 30% of the part, poll for a new file. Now we are going to print it and then move it to an archive location. That is what we are going to complete in next 15 minutes. And there are 2-3 examples were there. By using all these 3 examples, we'll complete the file connector and we'll cover the Mule4 event model as well. Now let's talk about Mule4 event model. So we are continuously talking about a Mule event. So when you deploy an application in the Mule runtime, when you run an application, it will get deployed into a Mule runtime. The bottom portion is the Mule runtime, and on top of that, the blue color box is the Mule application, which is running in the same container. And Mule application will contain a flow. When there is a trigger happened, event source will receive the trigger, and it will create an event and then hand over to the next one. So as it's processing, as this component is processing the event, then it is called an event processor. That will also process the event and then give it to the next event processor. That is how your flow execution will be completed. Depending on the event source, if there is a chance of responding back with a response, that response will go. Sometimes some event sources does not support for the response. Kind of your file on your update, we don't need to return any response back. So a mule event contains the core information processed by the runtime. What is this mule event? We have been talking from last 2 3 days. Mule event, it is the core information processed by your runtime. It is passed between the configured event processors in the flow. So there are some theoretical point. So a mule event is generated when a trigger, what is the trigger? When a trigger reaches the event source of a flow. So what is the trigger? Such as an HTTP request you sent from a browser, or a change in a database, or a file, or inserting a record into the database, or inserting an creating a file in the given location will initialize your trigger. So what is this Mule 4 event model? So whenever an trigger is created, whenever a trigger is reached your Mule event source, your Mule event source will create a Mule event. So this is your Mule event. So inside your Mule event, there are different parts. The first part one is Mule message. So Mule message is the message, actual message, which contains two sections called payload and attributes. Already we have seen a payload is something which carries your actual information, and then attributes is something which has the information about your payload. And then apart from these two, you will have a variables, and as well as you will have another thing called error messages. So by moving on to the next sessions, we'll explore one after the other, but time being today, we'll talk about a mule event, mule message, and then payload, and then attributes. So now move to the next point, and then mule message. It's a part of the event that serves as a container of a message content and metadata. Whenever you are receiving the message from an external system, or whenever you are sending a message to external system, your mule message matters. So the next two variables and other messages, these are part of your mule development, but mule message is the important one. So each processor in the flow receives that message and returns a new mule message in the form of an event. So the main, they are working on the message itself. So now if you want to access the message from the mule program, how should you access? You will access with the help of this message. So file got picked, and then how do you access? When you want to interact with a mule event, you should inform to this kind of places in a different way. If you type something like this, it will not, it will treat it as a text. But if you want to treat it as a mule event, really mule message related to mule event, you have to enable this function button, f of x button. When you make it as an expression, so it will treat this message as an part of a mule event. So let's save this out, and then once you save and my application is up and running, so this will rebuild the application. And once after rebuilding, say this, file got picked, and message is printed as a text in the second logger, and the third logger printed. What is this? A message. So a message got printed. So in the message, what it will contain? In the message, it will contain will contain these sections. One is payload. It is providing some kind of in the object format, that is fine, and you will have your attributes, and completely your set of attributes were defined here, starting with last modified time, ending with the file name, starting with last modified time and ending with the file name. So this is your message. So as we theoretically learned here, mule message is a combination of your attributes and payload. It's just a container for your attributes and payload. There is nothing else. If you want to combinedly refer your attributes and payload, you will use the mule message. But generally, we'll never ever use this direct message. We'll directly work with payload and attributes. Mule message contains following parts: payload and attributes. So payload, payload, what payload will contains, what attributes contains. Now, anyone help me, how do I access the payload or attributes? If you doesn't have any prior experience on this. Where is my payload and attributes? Where are my payload and attributes? My payload and attributes are part of what?
Mule message.
Message dot payload message dot attributes. Now save your application and then wait for the application to reload. Hope everyone is following. If you are not able to follow, feel free to raise your concerns. So now my application got picked, and then I observed like file got picked. Again it was executed. Okay, file got picked, and the first logger is my mule message. Second logger is, what is this? Is it printed now? What is this? This is the content of your file, means your payload got printed, and then your attributes got printed. So you can access your payload and attributes inside your mule program with the help of message.payload and message.attributes, or else you can access even directly, because message is uh, just used as an container for these two, but payload and attributes are the one that we daily use. There is no difference when you use message.payload or a simple payload, when you use attributes and message.attributes. So I'm trying to access now with the help of payload and attributes. Make sure when you are accessing mule event, an f of x is clicked. Okay, if you don't click f of x, it will treat it as a bunch of characters, and then it will as is print, like however it has printed file got picked, in the same way it will do. So I'm waiting for my application to restart. Yes, it restarted, and then file got picked 2 times. So now see, file got picked, and then it printed the same message. It printed the same message: file data, that is your payload, and then your file attributes. Is everyone clear with it? Yes? No?
Yes, Kishore.
Others?
Yes, Kishore.
So payload contains the body of your message, what actual body it is. Example, the content of a file, a record from database, and blah blah blah. If you want to access the payload, use the payload from an expression mode. And then attributes, it talks about same thing. So it will contain file size, path, file name, last modified. And if it is of HTTP attributes, it will contain host name, URL, HTTP headers, query string, and query parameters. Attributes can be accessed from the expression called directly attributes. And then these are the references if you want to refer about your Mule event model. So do copy the links that I am pinging you in the chat. keep in your document until I shared you the things. And then the next one is about your Mule message. Just go through it. At least you will understand the terminology. You will understand that terminology. Shaker, anything? Right? So that is about your Mule event model. So now let's get back and then try to complete the first example. So pull for a new file and print the contents of the file. So this is what we are working on.
So, Kishore, I have a question.
Yes, please.
What happens in case if we have multiple files in the source within the 10 seconds frequency?
Just give a try.
Okay. And also in the
Mm.
logger, like message.attributes, is there an option to select only one of the attribute, like if we want to
Yes.
just print the
How?
file name?
Correct. Exactly. We'll go through that. So, however, you selected how we selected message dot payload. How we
Through the
selected message dot payload to the
through the
expression.
expression.
Expression, and what is the relation between message and payload? Message is parent and payload is child, right?
Right.
In the same way, message is parent, attributes is child. Attributes is parent, last modified time is child. File name is a child of it. Attributes dot file name, attributes dot last modified time will get such information.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, we'll see that. Just give a try. So whatever the question you have asked, so if you have multiple files, what happened? So it will pick the multiple files in two different threads. That is what my expectation. So, but give a try. So the next
Kishore,
thing is, hmm,
one
yes,
doubt. In a single logger, can we have payload and attributes together?
yes, we can have. That is called concatenation.
Okay.
We can have, but generally we will not do that. So we'll talk more about this expression mode. There is a separate 4 to 5 sessions are there. This is called a data weave. So that there we will discuss all these things. At 27. So now if you observe my example, I placed file one time, but this guy is picking, the same file and processing for every 10 seconds. Say, imagine a condition your some source system is sending your daily expenses data. So daily expenses data your source system is sending. So you are doing an integration to update that into the account books. Daily expenses. So an employee went outside and then he had some breakfast or lunch or something, right? And then that cost is 100 rupees. So how many times he had actually? One time, right? But your integration picking the same file for say for every 1 hour, in 24 hours, it will add an entry called had breakfast at 100 rupees, had breakfast 100 rupees. So it's duplicating, right? So it is a wrong entry into your account books. So once you started reading the file, on processing it, after processing, you should archive the file. Either you should delete it, but it's not a good practice to delete the files. You should archive the file. What is archiving? Archiving means once the file is processed, file is picked, you have to move the file from this location to a different location. So create a folder called archive, and then you have to write a code to move the file from this location in location to the archive location. So now where is this file? In this location, right? So now we will use the help of the move operation, and then we will try to move the file from the one location to the other location. So what is the source location of the file? Source should be your file name, and your file path, and target location should be just the location. When you ask someone to move that, you should tell that what he needs to move, and then from where he needs to move, right? So from where to where. So this is I needs to move from this location to this location. So let's use the help of file move operation, which moves from my file from one location to the other, and at the end I want to add a logger and just write a content called file mode. And then to the move I need to provide the information and use the configuration called connector configuration, and then use this, and then provide the source path. My source path is this. Make sure source path it should contain the name of the file itself, and then target path it should contain only the path. And then the other option, whether you want me to create the four parent directories, whether you want me to override if the file exists or not. By default it's true. We do repeat it multiple times, then it may cause an issue. That is why I'm selecting it as a true. And there are other options as well. I'm covering the important main options. If you have time, explore the other options. And I'm saving my application. Let the application reload. And then observe application reload completed. And then I have what? File got picked. It printed the file payload. And the second thing, it printed the attributes and file got moved. Now let's go and see in the in location. Do you see students.csv? Yes, no?
No.
Archive. Even here it is not there. What location I have given?
You put out.
Output.
Hmm. Out. So students.csv is there. So I need to use archive. Out is for a different purpose. When you do write, we'll use the out. So we are using archive for the move. So whenever you process a file, it's a good practice to keep a copy in an archived location. It means all archive locations will contain already processed file. Why you need to archive? Because if there is something has happened, and your accounts team said that I'm not getting any, I'm not getting my accounts tallied, something like that, you will say, hey, I only process the data that I have received from this files. So please, these are the files I have received, please go and check this file, something like that will inform. Now I am processing this one more time for the sake of seeing file is properly moved to archive or not. Students.csv, and then I am placing it here, and then in the next 10 seconds this got picked up, processed, and it should move to the archive. Now I want to place students-in.csv. Can anyone tell what will happen? Will the file will be picked?
No.
Yes, no?
No, Kishore.
Region?
No, I
Student
think
dot
it will
yes,
pick.
yeah,
It will be picked.
It will pick. It
Student
will pick.
star.
Right? It will pick.
Yeah.
And now this logger execute file got picked, and this will execute payload, and then this will execute attributes will get printed. I'm going to delete this stuff. I don't want to use this because you know already. And then I want to move the file. What will happen here? Clearly observe and tell me what will happen here. In the in location, I will keep students hyphen in.csv, but while moving what I am doing, which one I am moving it?
Students dot
The student.
Dot CSV.
Is the students.csv exist in the in location?
no,
No,
Then what will happen?
it
it
won't
will
go.
be the source only.
It will
It will
give us left and right saying that hey, your file does not exist. So save this. So we deleted few event processors. Let the application reload. I use 32 GB RAM machine in my client location. So when I save it within split of the second, it will get reloaded. Even it won't take this much time. So now I'm keeping students.in.csv into my in location. The expectation is file will get picked properly. Switch the perspective. Now you understand attributes, you understand payload. What are the other two parts of your Mule event? Mule message, attributes, payload, and then we are now going to see this error message. So now logger, and I'm asking, what is the file I picked? What is the file I picked?
Students dot.
Where is my file name? Here. Students-in.csv. Right? But what I was moving still students.csv. Then it will say, hey man, whatever you are asking me to move, it does not exist. So this is called your error. So in your Mule event model, along with your payload and attributes, you have two different things called variables and errors. Error is something like when any unexpected thing happens in your flow execution, then error will get raised. So I'm leaving this. So we'll talk about error at later point of time. But now let me move this properly. So today my file picking, this guy is continuously picking the file. Let me rename to txt. Agree. Just rename it so that it will not pick continuously. Now, what is happening on your update? I'll close in 3 minutes. On your update, I am looking for a file which contains, stood as starting letters, and after that anything and an extension CSV. So any file with this which satisfies this condition will get picked. But when I'm moving a specific thing. So what is a good idea? Whatever the file you picked, whatever the file you processed, that only you need to archive. You should not archive a different file, right? Everyone agree with this statement?
Yes, Giri.
Yes,
So
Kishore.
now I should not hard code this guy source path. Now I need something which dynamically gives me what is my file, what file I picked and what location it was exist. Do I have that information from my Mule event? Yes, no?
Yeah,
Do you have it?
Yes.
we have we
Yeah.
have
Yeah, we have
we
it.
have an
We have
attributes.
it as part of attributes.
Attributes.
So how do I access my attributes? In the attributes where it was, is there any specific field for that? In the attributes, we have a specific field called path. Now let's go and check that. So if I want to access the Mule event, what is the blind thing I need to do? What is the blind thing?
Expression message
Attribute
dot
dot path.
attribute.
Expression mode is the first thing, and then
Attribute dot.
attributes. You cannot write. You should. I mean, you can use shortcut. Just write two letters and use control space. It will fill up the remaining part for you. Even for the payload, PA control space, it will fill up the space. Okay, that will only when you enable the expression mode. Attributes. Now click on this. See, it's all showing what are the available elements. Now go and get this attributes.path. So you are saying whatever is the path is there in my attributes, please take that as a source path and move it into a different location, and then save this guy. It will reload. Hope all of you are following. If you practice regularly, you will get more interest. Now my application was started after reloading, and then I am clearing my console so that I cannot get distracted with the too many locks. Now I am changing this extension to CSV so that my file poller will pick this file. And now students in.csv, in the next 10 seconds, this file needs to be picked or else this file was placed some time back and it tried, I think. Let me try to modify this something 30 with 31 so that its modified time will get updated. Sometimes it will pick or else we need to delete and keep a new file. Oh, it's picked already. Before 31, after 31. Yeah, it's picked. I think I didn't saw that window. So now the file was picked. I only concentrated on the attributes. Whatever you have written here, attributes.path, right? So check this path. Do you want to evaluate? Do you want to know what is the value available in this path? How do you see? Here and then go here. You can see like this. See now your attributes path is showing this. There is something called in the next left right hand side. There is a view called evaluate. What was this? Data view expression. So use this, keep this, and click on evaluate. It will return you the value. Now your source for your file move will be attributes.path, and then you are moving that. So when you expand the move, this expression will get evaluated, and it will tell you source path is this, move is working with the source path and then into this target path. Now execute this. Now logger is done. Now whatever the file is there, that went to archive. So you can keep any other file which satisfies this condition. Students-2.csv. Let me disable the breakpoint for time being and keep this here, and within the next interval in the next interval time it will pick the file and then it will move it. Now picked it and then moved it. So that is about your students, your file on your update and move file operation. Okay. So any questions on this to anyone? Any questions to anyone?
Okay, very good.
All good. So if you have any questions, stay back. Any issues, stay back, or else you can disconnect. So today example, I will keep this here and I will allow this for everyone. From tomorrow onwards, you will this will get shared only for the registered members. So I forgot to do that in the last time, last 21 to 7:30. So you will get all your folder PPT. Let me stop the recording. So everyone good? Do you have any questions? If you have